Welcome to the African Muslim Film Festival. I'm Hannah from the University of Michigan Global Islamic Studies Center. Joined with me is Warsan from the Center for Middle Eastern and North African Studies, as well as Warda Mohamed, the director of the writer of the lovely film we just watched. Thank you for being here and thank you for your time. We absolutely loved Muna. Can you tell us a little bit more about your career in filmmaking and how you started for you?
Yeah, I was kind of like um, I want to say a late bloomer. I studied like media and the arts in university because my parents, when I told them I wanted to work in film, they were like, "It's no." So I was like, okay, a happy medium would be I will study media, but in my final year, um, with no practical teachings whatsoever, they said you could either make a short film or do your dissertation. And I was like, well, I'm going to do a short film. And they didn't teach us anything. So I had a DSLR camera and I was like, are you guys going to give us like cameras? And they were like, no. I was like, any equipment? They were like, no. I'm like, just go do it. So I was like, okay. So I made a short with a friend who was an aspiring actress at the time. And yeah, we made it and it just lit something within me. And I was like, okay, I want to do this. I have nowhere to start. And I told my parents again, I was like, I'm going to pursue this now. And they're like, no. And I was like, yes, I'm going to try. I'm going to see if it can work. And that was the beginning. And I was like, if I want to work as a writer and a director, I need to learn how to direct what is directing. So I started getting jobs on set as like a PA and a runner. And I got to see like every facet of every department. And, people are so open to answering questions. So I would just ask everyone, like, why did you do that? And why did you change this? And why did he ask you to do that? And I would just try to learn as much as possible. And the film that pretty much changed my career was a feature film called Rocks. It's a British coming of age story which features Kosa Ali, who's the lead in Muna. And yeah, I was like a PA on that job. I did various roles on that job, but I was also a cast PA, and we just had this kind of kinship straight away. And towards the end of the film, she was like, well, what do you want to do? What do you really want to do? And I was like, well, I want to be a filmmaker. I've written this short Muna. And I told her the plot, and she was like, well, I want to play Muna if you want. And I was like, what? Why didn't I think of that? I didn't actually know. I was like, well, yeah, yes, yes, yes. Okay. So yeah, she was pretty much the first person attached to the film. So yeah, that was pretty much the start for me. And then when I made Muna, it came to be because I signed up for a screenwriting course because I didn't know how to. I knew how to write stories, but I didn't know how to write a script. So I needed to learn how to write the technicalities of it. So I did a beginner's course, and then in the advancement course, they said come with an idea, and this idea was rattling in my brain. I was like, I want to do this, and that's how it all began.
Thank you for such like a detailed answer, honestly. I feel like I was there when you were Yeah. I think my next question is, what is it like being a woman filmmaker in the Somali diaspora? How does the diaspora community take it? And why did you want to be a filmmaker to begin with?
Um, I think to for the latter question of like why I wanted to be a filmmaker, I think I just had like a yearning to tell stories. And I think this was the medium I felt the most comfortable in. And I think I've loved cinema from a young age, and it's been something that has been part of my life since I was a kid. Like we used to have a local Blockbusters, RIP, and I would like go there like every Friday. Any pocket money my dad would give me, I would be like there just looking through every single DVD and seeing what I can find. And um, that's where my love came from. And it took me a while to realize that I could do that because I couldn't see myself. Like I think that's the age of the question of like not being able to see yourself on screen and not being able to see yourself behind the camera. And it's hard to believe that it's possible. And in terms of I think that's like the struggle I found. But I think what I've realized now of like being a Somali woman, filmmaker in the industry, I think especially outside of it, there's a lot of Somali women who want to do exactly the same thing I'm doing, which is I think is incredibly beautiful, because I think we need more stories to be told, and I think if there's a big community of us coming together at the same time, I think it just gives us such an eclectic, wide range of stories. So it's not just one POV, it's everyone's, and I think that's what representation is all about. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's so true. Like, we need more art, we need more media. And I have been loving kind of seeing the different forms of art and media coming out, especially representing like such important stories. Um, I know you mentioned The Rocks earlier, but what were your influences in making the movie Muna? And were there any like favorite films or media pieces that kind of inspired your work, especially with like a coming of age kind of story?
Ooh. I really love the Saudi film Wajda. That
Oh,
film,
yeah.
like, yeah, that film was really beautiful. That was a beautiful coming of age story about a young girl. I think when I originally wrote Muna, she was like 13, 14 years old.
Mhm.
Um, and that's probably why I couldn't see close. But then when she told me, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna age her up.
Yeah.
Um, and I am a big fan of like Iranian New Wave cinema. That pretty much changed my life. That's where I saw myself,
Mhm.
even though they look nothing like me. It was just like the sensibility of the storytelling, that documentarian realism, storytelling that I really enjoyed. And yeah, those are the films that really like moved me. I'm a big fan of Asghar Farhadi and like Separation and Abbas Kiarostami. He has a film called 10, that takes place in a car, and there's only one camera like situated in the front of the car, in between the passenger seat and the driver's seat, and it's a female taxi driver, and it's like 10 stories, and it's a phenomenal film, and that pretty much changed my way of like what filmmaking is to me. And there's so many ways that you can tell a story, and yeah, that kind of like lit something in me and like really made me rethink the stories that I could tell too.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. Also, great films for us to write down for our film festivals. I will be
That's it.
taking those notes.
Yeah, that's it.
So with Muna's release, very wide reach, honestly, what has been the reception for the film in the UK and like abroad? Have you heard any feedback from different communities or just press wise?
It's honestly, it's been such a beautiful experience. We went on like a run, like festival run from September of 2023. So about a year and a bit, and it's been phenomenal. Especially to talk about like the international feedback as well, like the reception. It's just been phenomenal. I think what I didn't realize is that when you tell such a personal story, people feel people end up telling you their personal stories about their own grief and their own loss, which I think has been really beautiful to hold that space. Um, and yeah, it's just been different people from different backgrounds really connect with the film. It's not just been Somali, which I think is just a testament to when people say that, you know, they want to tell a specific personal story, that there is universality in it. And that's really important that you root it in something you know and something that's specific to you, something that's personal to you, because you're not the only one that could relate to it. Many people can. And yeah, it's been my wildest it's been like my wildest dream seeing everyone be so kind about the film and tell me all their stories. And in the UK we released the film on BBC, the iPlayer, which is a streaming platform for BBC, and on last week on Thursday. And it's just been unbelievable the way, because a lot of people have been asking me, can I watch this film? Can I watch this film? And I'm like, unless it's screening at a festival in London, I can't. We were trying to find where we can find a home for it, but yeah, it's basically bred new life in the film, and people have just been so kind about it. So yeah, it's been a really exciting time with the film.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, we loved that the film was kind of based around a young Muslim girl. Like, how did you decide to write about a character like that and this family dynamic relationship?
I think essentially the premise, the heart of the film, the story originally, when I was in its inception, I was like, how do you mourn a family member you've never met before? That was the heart of it. And I think I was like, okay, if I'm gonna write a young girl, because that's when I went through that situation of like trying to understand how I mourn a family member I've never met before. So I was like, I really want to see it through a young girl's eyes, just through not through my eyes in particular, but like what I went through and that kind of thought process of like, am I doing something wrong? Am I doing something right? Is this the right way to mourn? Should I cry? Should I not? Am I a bad person if I don't feel anything? And I really wanted to grapple with those thoughts. And I was like, I think it's perfect to see through the eyes of a 16-year-old girl who is on the periphery of her family, the periphery of her friends, doesn't really know where she fits in. And I really wanted to breathe through that isolation where like you kind of see all the characters move really freely within the home and outside of the home. But throughout the film, she's the only one that's home. She doesn't leave the house at all. Um, and making sure that each room has something about it, but also making the house feel as big as possible for her, but also as small as possible. So yeah, that was a challenge of like trying to tell a story through her eyes and how her focuses are on something completely different, but at the heart of it, she still is thinking about these emotions.
That's amazing. Um, I have another related question actually is I loved the music aspect of it. Was that like something that you kind of came up with because of a personal, but I just like loved her making her little playlist. I'm like, this is very relatable, especially for that age range, but also even now, was that something that you kind of included because you have a relationship to music or even her with her grandpa too? Like that was really beautiful to watch.
Obviously, it's a really integral part of the story. I think this it's really weird because like I think when I was writing the first draft, it already is so desperate to fit in with her friends. And she's like, I'm gonna make the playlist. I love music. I'm gonna do this. And the friends are like, well, not coming, come. And like she's like, no, no, no. And she's really staking her claim here. And she's made a decision, and an announcement really of like, I'm coming, I'm doing this, and I'll figure out the rest later. And when tragedy strikes, she really has to push past everything to make sure that she doesn't let her friends down. Um, and yeah, and then I think with the playlist, the playlist of its own, because I did the playlist like I wrote the script in like 2018, so the songs are like some of them are popular back then and then some of them are not, but like I really want to tell a story. So like when Beyonce's Formation comes on, she's getting in formation like to get ready to clean the house, and like I was like I want each song to really represent the emotion that she's going through. So like when The Far Side Passing Me By comes on, like the trip is kind of like falling out of her hand, and like her dreams are passing her by. So I really wanted the song itself to tell a story. So that's how that playlist came together. um and then with the grandfather's oud, I was like I really want to connect these two characters across generations, and I was like I think music is the best way to do that, in my opinion. So because Somalia has such a great history with the oud, I was like, I think, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful sounding instrument that I was like, that's just so much. It's just so visual, it's so cinematic, and I was like, there's so much you can do with this. And we were really lucky enough, like I was looking for someone to play that in London, so I was gonna have like my cinematographer shoot that scene. But what ended up happening is before my cinematographer even came on board, looking for an oud player in the UK was very difficult, and finding someone that was of age proved tricky. So we had to in the script, it was like back home. there's somebody, the grandfather obviously lives in Somalia, and we were lucky enough to find someone in Somalia to do it. So the person that's playing the oud was shot back home on an iPhone. So yeah, it was a very quick thing. I asked my uncle, can you help me? And he was like, I got you. He found someone in like 2 days, and then they shot it in a studio, like like it had like a big like sound system, and there was like um, a Somali guy, one guy shooting portrait, one guy shooting landscape, and then my uncle was like, me and my mom were like directing it via WhatsApp video. And my uncle's like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? I'm like, it's really good. He was like, how's the lighting here? How's the lighting there? So he was like doing the lighting. And there was a guy in the corner, like with a mic, and he was like, I can rap really quickly if you want me to on the track. And I was like, you're so kind. Thank you so much. But that's not necessary. He's like, I've got songs. And I'm like, no, 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 you're good, you're good, you're good. I was like, I just need the oud, please. But it was like everyone like shouting. That's how we speak to each other. It was like everyone was shouting, but we were like trying to direct on screen. So it was a chaotic, it was very chaotic, but the results were very beautiful. And we did like a few takes, we did like a few songs. But yeah, I had a very specific way I wanted to shoot it. I wanted it to be like a very blank background and very old school. And yeah, we got what we needed, and yeah, it really helped to make the film, but also shooting it early was a blessing in the end because once everyone knew about that, and it kind of helped everyone visualize it even more and understand even more when this will be placed and understanding the sounds and bringing on the composer on early to be like, this is where I want to, this is our starting point.
Wow. I can't even imagine like your skill set to be able to
Yeah, it was crazy.
digitally internationally. Incredible.
Yeah. It was crazy. And also they were like, we can put like a Snapchat filter on him. We can make him lighter skin. I was like,
Matcha filter.
no,
Can I just say her making the playlist really took me back to like high school days.
Yeah.
Like in the Khalij making playlists before for like me and my friends before a school field trip. So that was very like nostalgic for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it
I
takes
think
you
that
back.
was so cute. It really did. Um, Circling back to like talking about or like feeling emotions about a relative who's passed away that you've never met. Um, and with that being such an open conversation in Somali communities, your mom gets a call, so and so passed away in Somalia, and you've never heard about them or met them or know anything about their story. Like, how did you explore this, I guess, not only in the film, but even before? The film. How did you come up with those like emotions and yeah.
Yeah, it kind of, I think the seed that was planted for me, it's like over like 20 years. Yeah, about over 20 years. When we were kids and my no, 15, something like that. I'm not that old. A very long time ago. And the first really big loss in my family was my mom's sister, and it was very unexpected. And when she got the phone call, obviously, like it broke her apart, and I had never seen my mother cry like that before in my life. And I found it really hard to understand what she was going through. And me and my siblings were like in a row, and we were just like, what the hell is going on? My dad's comforting my mom, and my mom is really emotional. And as like the emotional one in my family, I just started crying. I was like crying my eyes out, and my sister was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you don't even know her, why are you crying? And that line, why are you crying, you don't even know her? My sister laughed like, wow, that was really harsh what I said. And I was like, it was. But that stayed in my head forever. That stayed in my head until I wrote. That's how Muna was born, essentially, from a comment she made. And essentially, the brother in the film is kind of modeled by my younger sister, because like he finds it difficult, but he's like very submissive about it. He's like, yeah, well, didn't know him, so what do you expect me to do about it? I can't cry. I don't know how to mourn him, so I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm going to football practice. Like life really moves on for him. Like he continues life as like is meant to be. And obviously, even in the film, you see in video games where his mum is talking to people on the phone about the wake the next day. So he's really like he's like out of sight, out of mind. Like I don't, and it's not a bad thing either. He's just like this processing it because nothing to process for me. Um, so yeah, I was really interested in exploring that because I think I was like I really want to explore this film on like how do you want to, but I was like it's not really a question I need answered. It doesn't need to be answered. It's really open ended.
Everything you're describing really captured just like kids and dealing with like kind of experiencing empathy in a way that's like with big emotions for the first time. Like I feel like it really did a good job of capturing that.
And you really captured like the sibling dynamic extremely well. I think we've had that banter with all of our siblings. How like do you have any siblings and like how do they feel about being represented, I guess, in some small way in this movie? You just mentioned your sister. That one line stuck with you. So yeah, I just want to know
My
like
sister was
yours.
like, yeah, my sister was like, I need full credit. Like, I need a writer's credit immediately. Because if I didn't say that, would you have made this film? I don't think so. Um, so that's my sister. But my younger brother and my older sister were pretty because they didn't know we all have like our different ways. So yeah, it's essentially like my the older brother in the film is based on my younger sister, but also like the kind of model of like what a brother in a Somali household holds and the kind of uh the kind of differences of experience that a daughter and a son has, and the privilege that he has, but he is sometimes he's kind of ignorant to, but they are well aware of it and they know they're privileged, but they have no desire to change it. Um, and I really wanted to explore that because I also wanted to explore his empathy towards the end of like he understands his sister's going through it. Um, and he even says at the end, like, I know how to bar up mum, no cooking or cleaning necessary. I don't need to do any of these extra steps. All I gotta do is ask her and she'll give it to me. So he's well aware of it, but he's like, for you, I'll help you out. So yeah, I really wanted to like in a very slight way because obviously it is a short film, just to have ways of just giving it a note of like who they are as siblings and like the places they hold in their family.
You did that wonderfully. Like it was
Captured that super well.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I think the whole like scene where there's guests over and there's like a men's like the men's section, you know, the men all eating and whatnot. You're giving your brother the tray, saying like, "Go put this in, like go and like you know help out with like it's serving." That's the only way I think Swanee boys show up, where
Yeah.
brothers kind of become useful. But no, I think you captured it so perfectly. Yeah.
I wanted to know, were there any scenes that were filmed that didn't make the final cut or scenes that you wrote that didn't make it into filming?
Pretty much we were pretty with the short we're pretty specific. So nothing nothing I remember got cut.
Mhm.
But I will say when we signed on with BBC Film, originally there were two brothers.
Oh,
There was Abdi and Hassan, and I really wanted to play with the yin and the yang, where Hassan was the eldest, and he had a lot of empathy, and he was really sweet to Munna, but Abdi was such a annoying pain, and but he's the one at the end that gives her the money, and he sees her hurting, and I was like, I really want to like play with that, where like the older brother, the eldest brother is like really sweet, but like doesn't really help her and doesn't really give her any solutions, but it's Abdi who's like closer in age, who supports her towards the end, but um the reason we cut it out, the brother out, was they were like, you can't have one, these two roles are too thin, but if you merge them, an actor can really have fun with it. And because it's a short, you don't have a lot of time. So they were like too many characters. So I think you should merge the two. And that's what we did. And it worked much better.
Mhm. Going back to Muna herself, you really did capture her like teenage, I think the quintessential like teenage years and like the emotions and complicated feelings that she has, especially with family pressure. Did that mimic your life or the lives of like your friends, whether they be Somali or non-Somali? Like how did you I guess study those emotions? Like was that memory? Was that from life experience?
Well, I was, as you know, a question I get a lot is like, oh, did you not go on your school trip? And I was like, no, I did. My parents let me go. Um, so I understood that, but I think it's just general of like when you're asking your parents on something and you're like, can I go here with my friend? They're like, no, you can't. And you're like, what? But what I wanted to explore is how quickly her parents could say no to something like that, but how easy it was for her mum to need Muna as her emotional crutch throughout this week, and how that like the weight on that on the grief is way heavier than her going on a school trip, but her mother sees it as like, no, 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 this is nothing. I did it for my mother and my mother's mother. So I need you specifically. I need you by my side. I need you to lean on for emotional support. And Mona finds that difficult because she's like, you're asking me to do all of these things, but like something as simple as a trip, you say no to. But her mother doesn't see it that way. Her mother thinks that her leaning on her is expectant because she did that. So I really wanted to talk about like how different gens see things differently, and how they both saw things from a different point of view, essentially.
Yeah, my family was definitely the same way. Lots of things are expected.
Yeah, a lot of things.
You'll clean your room before you ask something like, oh, can I go here and there? Like, oh, my room is already clean. I already did my homework. I already did everything. So
And
you
they're
can
like,
just be like
no.
easy yes.
Yeah.
And it's still a no.
Yeah.
Can I just say it was great seeing the actor who played the brother, Olmi. Um, be in our screens. I know like he was from our Tumblr days. He used to be all over the Tumblr feeds or like Somali Twitter, his face, like, oh, Somali new Somali actor. So it was really exciting to see him in like this large scale like production. What was the process of finding actors? Was it hard finding Somali actors? Especially like the parents and yeah. Was there like an audition process?
There was an audition process. So we hired a casting director. Now, I wrote this, I think it was great. And I think a good rule is like, write whatever you want. And then when you get to casting, then realize, wow, why the hell did I do that? How am I going to find these people? Because I wrote this with no fear. I was like, yeah, I'll find someone. Yeah, I'll do this. And then when we started casting, when the film was gonna be made, I was like, oh my God, like, the opening scene is like an older Somali woman crying, and I'm like, how the hell am I gonna find someone that can cry like that and act like that? And I'm in big trouble. So when we started casting, we didn't get much. Obviously, Elmi is pretty much an established actor, so he was the easiest to connect. But obviously, we did a chemistry read with him and Kosa as siblings, and they got along, so that was easy. That was like out of the way. Next was finding the mother, which for me, this is like a two-hander essentially. Muna is our lead, but the mother is very important in this story. And we were having no luck. And I was telling my casting director, you have to hand out flyers, like you have to hand out leaflets, you have to do old school because people are not going to check the avenues you're going in, especially Somalis, as we are not an established like film community, an acting community yet. Inshallah, in the future we will be. So I was like, you need to hand out flyers. And what ended up helping was I told her to go to like predominantly Somali heavy like areas like Bren and like all these other places. And she went there, and that is where we found our people essentially. And where we found these people was somebody took a photo of the leaflet, sent it on WhatsApp, sent it through WhatsApp. You know when it says forwarded many times? That's how we found our people. That and Snapchat. Because when I asked them, how did you find us? They were like, I saw it on Snapchat. I saw it on WhatsApp.
No way.
So that's how we find our people. Because
The
that's where we
reach.
are. Um, so for the women, for the mom, we asked them to read the excerpt of like the opening scene about the trip. Well, mainly the phone call. And we had two women, and it was Raha and Mina, and Mina plays the annoying auntie who makes the wake comment. She was up for the role of the mom, and I loved her so much. I was like, I want you to play the auntie. But they both like killed it. But Raha, who plays the mother, just brought something so natural to this role that I was yearning for. And we met, and it was just so easy. So yeah, we were really lucky in finding Raha. But like, I think what I learned as a filmmaker is that like you can cast someone in a traditional way, but when you're working with them, you have to go in a different way. You have to be much more untraditional, because as a filmmaker, I have to do way more work than a usual filmmaker would. And that is because they need the filmmakers, that the actors that I'm bringing on have never acted before, and they need way more support. And I have to be by their side constantly. And obviously, they're learning lines that, how do you learn lines? Like, I have to sit with them. And like, what I had to do with Raha specifically was we would make the film got delayed for a few months, which was a blessing in disguise. And what I would do is we would meet like every other week in a coffee shop, and we would sit down and we'd go through every single scene and the emotions needed for the character in every single scene. Break it down, break it down, break it down, break it down. So we like in like the smallest detail we broke down the script, and then we had like a read through just before we shot this film, and she struggled in it. Raha struggled because um this is not, she doesn't do it because I never taught we weren't going through the script like that, and I was like, okay, I've made a mistake here. Like, and also it's fine to make a mistake because you're learning. But I was like, oh, okay, I can't do it like that. I can't do it traditional way. It's not going to work. So what we did was we made sure that we sent her the scenes we were filming in advance with like the scenes. Like obviously you just send like the pages on the day, but we sent everything to her in advance. Like we're going to do these scenes on this day. So everything was available to her early, that she was able to prepare for it. But because we did the work beforehand, she was like, okay, I know this emotion, I know this, I know that. Um, and yeah, it was just being patient and like really being by their side. And on the day of shooting, Ola, my DP, was like, we're starting off with the hardest scene for the mother, and she's never acted before. Are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yes. And he was like, okay. And that's the scene that she cries. We did that on our first date. And like she would do the scene and she would go, what did you want me to do that again? And Olan was like, what the hell? She's like, bro. I was like, yes, she knows what she's doing. She's a natural. But you know, Raha was like, this is like a hobby for me. I've picked up a new hobby essentially, and she really had fun with it, and she really pushed herself. And it was really beautiful. And like pretty much everyone else in the film, were up for a role and didn't get it, especially the mourners were up for a role and didn't get it. I did have to pull some favors and bring my brother and my cousin to come in. But other than that, like every older woman was for the role. I was just like, I really want to make sure everyone is part of it. Um, and yeah, it was the best time.
That's beautiful. Wow. Yeah, I never would have guessed because like you could tell like the mother had so much emotion that I'm shocked to hear that this was her first. Like,
Yeah, because she was like, I know this woman. I know this woman really well. I know this character, so I know how to like pull from her. But also she knows the emotion of that phone call, and that was really once because she could root it in reality, that made the job much more easier for her.
yeah, because you're telling stories that we've all kind of been through. So
Yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly.
that's really beautiful. We've interviewed a couple directors and filmmakers before, and especially for like, for example, one of them was casting in the UAE, and they also were not, because a lot of like women in the UAE don't exactly act, so they had to go around and literally just find someone that looked or was acting the same way, and they were like, we would like you for this movie.
Ah,
So yeah, they had to kind of source from the world, which is something I've never heard of, but it's yeah. I
yeah,
also
yeah,
found
yeah.
the blessing of
I think
WhatsApp
it's
clearly.
No, you gotta. I think because of where we are right now, of like in terms of our stories being told is so minimal. I think we have to like really like go back to basics and like be really patient as well, and cast from early as possible. So we started the casting process like really early,
Mhm.
because I knew it was going to be hard, and I told my producers that, and they were well aware. Um, so like, don't think about wow how everyone else does it. Go at your own pace, and if you know it's going to be a struggle, start early. There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that.
that totally makes sense, especially because clearly people haven't imagined themselves in a role like this before. So
Exactly.
you're giving people a new opportunity, a new hobby. That's,
Hmm.
yeah, incredible. Well, we clearly really loved Mona and we're curious. Do you have any other projects in the works? Are you currently like working on something that we can look out for?
Yes, I just don't know when I'm going to make it. Hopefully, I do soon, inshallah. Well, I'm developing my feature titled Moon, which is a coming of age film. Um, and yeah, I hope to make it soon, but I'm developing it with BBC Film as well. So yeah, that's in the pipeline. So I hope I get to shoot that soon, because it's a film that's been in my brain for as long as Muna has. So I hope I get to actualize it. So I'm currently in the process of developing that. I'm writing it right now.
Amazing. Does it also follow a Somali girl who
Yes, so it's a British Somali young, yeah, British Somali young girl.
amazing. Okay, we're very excited for that. We'll keep our eyes peeled, hopefully for our future African Muslim film festivals.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm truly like, this was amazing. I feel like I just watched another movie with all the knowledge that you just shared with us. So thank
Yeah,
you so much. And hopefully we get to interview again for Moon as well.
definitely, inshallah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.